Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 53 of the Alec Walt Show. I'm your host, Alec Walt, alongside another very special guest, and today we're talking about the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals made a major decision at manager, let go of Mike Shildt, added Oli Marmol, and joining me to talk about that decision and more is Andy Hoffer, the host of the Brew Party Podcast. Andy, welcome back to the Alec Walt Show.
Alec, it is always a pleasure. I always have a great time chatting it up with you. I'm super excited to be talking about this today because, you said it before we got on. We got a lot to talk about.
Oh, we do. The Cardinals, again, made that managerial decision. Normally, you make decisions like this when your team, doesn't make the playoffs and has a really bad year. Now, many Cardinals fans can say this. They were inconsistent for the first couple months of the season, really turned it on towards the end, but Mike Shildt's one of the best managers in baseball. You have a team with franchise players as the pitcher and catcher, likely playing their last seasons in St. Louis. Your expectations are even greater going into next year with the chances of likely winning this division if you add a bat or two here and there. We'll see what decisions the Brewers make. But, Andy, why are the Cardinals making this decision at this moment, knowing you have a team that could be entering the final year of two of your franchise players on a team that actually has a chance to make a move here and win a World Series next year?
I don't know. So this announcement, when it comes out, it was kind of out of the blue because, in the weeks prior to this announcement of the Cardinals parting ways with Shildt, there were talks of extension. This is a guy that had his deal expiring at the end of next year and was thought to maybe get at least 2 more years. This was Mozeliak's guy, the interim that replaces Mike Matheny when he gets fired. And Shildt is a guy that has been in the Cardinals organization for nearly 2 decades. He's 53 years old. He began as a scout and a minor league coach in the early 2000s, just working his way up the organizational ladder. By 2017, he makes it to that big league coaching spot. I guess there are reports that a rift between Mozeliak and Shildt could have kind of led to this. I guess this is all reports. So I don't know if this is true or not, but, around mid-season where they were, barely hanging on to the NL Central, kind of where they, dipped quite a bit. And then it took that 17-game win streak in the second half of the season to really pick them up and get them to the wild card game. Obviously that heartbreaking loss in the wild card game, and they miss out on technically they made the playoffs, but, they really aren't going to play in the playoffs for the 3rd straight year. I think that had something to do with it. One stat I thought was really interesting because the Cardinals have been known for these just incredible, just late season runs. Over the last 6 years, the Cardinals are 239 and 238 in the first halves of those 6 seasons. Wow. And in the second half, they are 229 and 162. They have only won 1 division title in those 6 seasons. I know, obviously, Shildt wasn't the manager for all 6 of those seasons, but he was here for about half of that. He was on the staff since 2017, so he was around. John Mozeliak, he simply said there were too many philosophical differences between Shildt and Shildt and the front office for the relationship to continue. And then 10 days later, they promote Oli Marmol to the top job in the dugout. So Marmol's 35, baseball's youngest manager now. He has been considered like a future candidate for managerial jobs around the league. This kind of seems a little early. He's been his entire 15-year coaching career has all been with St. Louis as well. So another guy, St. Louis has their guys they like to promote from within. He's no stranger to, they say the Cardinal way. So he'll just be a yes man. He knows the players already. I like that. He's had a relationship with a lot of these guys. But I can speak for all of Cardinal Nations. We are ready to be good again. We're ready for a winner again. And it seems like it's been too long. I know we're spoiled as we have, I know it's still been, 10 years since the last World Series. So, you mentioned it. They re-signed Molina and Wainwright. That was a collective $10.5 million increase over their 21 salaries, I think. Yeah. So Wainwright goes from making $8 million this last year to $17.5 million next year. Actually, me and my friends kind of had a hot take when they fired Shildt. We're like, let's go Wainwright and Molina double player manager action for this last year, then let them retire and figure that out. But obviously, we didn't think that would happen. But this move, it's like surprising, but absolutely not surprising at all. If you've been paying attention to the Cardinals for the past however many years, it's just like they usually do the most conservative move. I know Mozeliak pretty much just wants his just hands all over everything. They want a lot of just computer analytic numbers and doing that. But I don't know. Weird timing for the move for sure. I don't know if I love the move, but I understand it. It's just very weird, Alec. I just don't know what to think about it. I just don't know what to think.
See how I look at this is the Cardinals are a team that's looking to win right now.
Mm-hmm.
And let's look back at some other moves that were made from some other teams outside the Cardinals. The New York Mets were all in on doing something in Steve Cohen's first year. They bring back Luis Rojas, who has zero managerial experience outside of the 60-game regular season. I personally don't believe that he should have returned to New York, but I'm not in that decision. I'm not in the position to make that decision.
You're right.
What happened? The team with all the expectations faded towards the end of the season. Yes, I understand injuries to a major piece of their rotation happened, but they didn't live up to expectations. They did not make the playoffs. Let's go to another team in San Diego. They hired Jace Tingler. Mm-hmm. This team had all the expectations in the world after he spent millions on constructing this roster. Tingler lost control of the locker room. The team ended up in third place, having an absolutely miserable season, and the team with high expectations moved on from their manager. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Oli Marmol is a better manager than both of those candidates that I've mentioned, but we've noticed a theme around a couple teams in baseball. When the team with high expectations hires a young manager with very little to no experience as a manager, those teams have underperformed when they were given expectations to compete for a world championship. I mean, I just look at this move thinking, like, you're trying to win now with someone who's never won now. Mm-hmm. And I just don't agree that that's the decision you guys should have gone in hiring your next manager.
Yeah, so I mean, you look at Marmol. He's been the bench coach for the past 3 years. Before that, he was the first base coach. He worked with them in the minor leagues. He did play in the Cardinals organization minor leagues for like 4 years. People are calling it like a blend of Matheny and Shildt. So he's got the Cardinal ties.
The last two guys you fired.
Exactly. So, which is not great. Like a better version of the two of them, I guess I should say. Alec, I'm not sold on it. I'm rooting for him. He doesn't have any managerial experience, but he has been a bench coach. I mean, we have seen bench coaches get hired and have success, a la, Alex Cora, stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, he's got a good team to coach now, but there are still some holes that they have to go fill. It's kind of on Mozeliak still now to go fill out this roster how he sees fit. I don't like that this is now the third manager Mozeliak has hired during his tenure as the team, going from GM to now president of baseball operations. And I mean, speaking of our GM, the Mets apparently tried to hire Michael Gershaway from us, and we told them no, which was the biggest bonehead move we could ever do. We should have just let them have him. Because he's just a yes man to Mozeliak too. I'm just not a Mo guy anymore. He has just lost his luster. It's just getting to the point where I just don't know this hire. Like I said, Marmol, he's a nice guy, but it just seems like this was somebody he knew that would just do whatever he says.
Yeah, and I mean, let's look at this from another lens. You keep mentioning Mozeliak's name.
Mm-hmm.
You listened to Marmol's press conference. I'm sure you were able to listen to that. I got to cut it while working at MLB Network Radio the other day. And a lot of people brought up analytics, in-game managing, balancing, that type of stuff. And obviously, when you're doing your introductory press conference, you're going to say what the owner who's sitting next, or no, the GM who's sitting next, or president of baseball operations, I keep screwing up Mozeliak's role here. He's sitting next to him. You're going to get a specific answer. It's what you want to hear. It's speaking to the fans. It's staying positive. But he was really trying to maneuver his way around it. It made it very clear to me that you mentioned this all the time, him being a yes man, him being Mozeliak's, second in command, doing what Mozeliak tells him to do. if something goes wrong, does this shift towards Mozeliak? Because this move clearly makes it seem like he wants more control, and he has more control with Marmol than Shildt.
Exactly. It absolutely does. Well, it's I think it's all a smokescreen. That has to be part of the smokescreen. I mentioned the success, lack of success the past 6 years the Cardinals have had. And it's also Cardinals fans, we're tired of not spending money in the free agency market, or, just always expecting it to be a homegrown guy, which we do always have that, that Cardinal devil magic where it seems like somebody you've never heard of will just kill for him in the playoffs. Just hasn't been the case the past few years. Like I mentioned, they're giving that extra $10.5 million to Molina and Wainwright respectively for this next year. We do also have to remember it's Molina's going farewell tour. It'll be his final year as a Cardinal. I think that adds even more pressure to Marmol. But let's talk about some of the other guys they're losing. They have an option on Matt Carpenter. They also have an option on Carlos Martinez. Bye-bye to both of them. That's going to open up a lot of money. Pretty sure they're going to let Andrew Miller walk. He's a free agent. That's $12 million more dollars. So they go from $174 million in salary at the end of 2019 to now it's the start of 2022, like $137 million. That gives them room. That gives Mozeliak room for one more big contract, which he has to do this offseason, in my opinion, to get more of this heat off the back. So obviously you have Arenado, Molina, O'Neill, Carlson, Bader, Paul Goldschmidt. Like they're loaded with right-handed bats. They need to go get probably a left-handed power bat, maybe one or two, and then hopefully an extra like veteran bat for the bench. A guy, maybe bring Albert Pujols back for this little farewell tour. They also have questions like in the middle of the infield. Do you keep Paul DeJong? Do you keep Edmundo Sosa? What do you do with Tommy Edman? Really, he's a utility guy. They've been playing him at second base, but he can be moved around if they need him to. Looking at this class of free agent shortstops, a guy like Corey Seager would be perfect for the St. Louis Cardinals. And in my opinion, somebody expensive, but a left-handed power bat, and it secures that shortstop position. Obviously, they have DeJong, they have Edmundo Sosa, great defenders, but can you really rely on them at the plate? Which is what the Cardinals have been missing is a shortstop that you actually have to be afraid of. I love Paul DeJong, roll birds. I was at Illinois State the same time he was there. So it was, I always root for him. He's one of my favorite Cardinals. But if push comes to shove and we got to get rid of him, he is the most expensive, $17 million remaining on that contract for DeJong. That might be a little bit harder to move. But if there is, let's say there's a team that, misses out on this free agency market that wants to go for like a solid backup or a short-term plan, DeJong could be that guy and we move him that way. Or they could just be totally wrong and, or I could be totally wrong. They stick to those guys in the middle infield, kind of hope it works out, or go after one of these second basemen, a guy like Corey Taylor, to bring up another Dodger, or, Marcus Semien, Eduardo Escobar is also going to be out there. Those are just, three names at second base. If they want to keep these guys at short and go after a big time arm, I wouldn't hate that either. They struggled with the rotation this year, keeping them healthy. We can't, as great as Wainwright is, can we rely on a 41-year-old Adam Wainwright, a 40-year-old Adam Wainwright again? Besides Wainwright, the next three guys that are supposed to be in this rotation, Flaherty, Miles, Michaelis, and Dakota Hudson, they only combined for 131 and 2/3 innings last year due to injuries, and that just can't happen again. So do they go and get more depth for the pitching, which – in a perfect world, I'd like them to go get another arm. I'd like them to get another bat, but, you only have so much money to spend. But really, for the heat to be off Mozeliak and for people to and there already are. Cardinals fans for a while have been talking about, maybe this is Mozeliak's fault, but, I don't think that the DeWitts are just going to get rid of him. So, in my opinion, for him to really get the heat off his back, you got to prove that you are really trying to win now with Arenado, with Goldschmidt. Go get another big name. Make a splash in the off season, something that Cardinal fans have been begging for a while. They did it last year when they traded for Nolan Arenado. I think this time they're going to have to go sign a free agent.
So, I mean, you mentioned how they haven't really been that active in free agency. You mentioned your 2 corner infielders or guys you acquired on the trade market. Mozeliak has been pretty aggressive in that sense, but what makes you think they're going to start spending money? Because I don't see this team spending $200-300 million on Corey Seager. You know, when I look at the shortstop and second base market, you know, you're looking for a specific left-handed bat. The left-handed bats outside of Seager are I won't say awful, but like they're not guys that you're looking to add to your team that takes your team to the next level. I mean, what makes you think that he's going to just drop all that money to try and win? Do you see it happening?
I think it's just like, I think it needs to happen. It's like, it's
Well,
obviously
there for a while.
right. I know. And the Seager thing, I'm not expecting him to go out and pay him all this money. I think that's like a perfect world.
Exactly.
Like they go after a Seager, and like, does the shortstop have to be a lefty? No. If they could go get a guy like Trevor Story or another one of those, Carlos Correa or somebody like that, just a name.
Not Baez.
Not. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it just because like it would
He's
be
not
the
a Cardinal.
No, but he's not. He is not. Every old white Cardinal fan would absolutely hate it for sure. Every old man yelling at.
I mean,
Cloud.
take the Cubs sense out of it. I'm not even mentioning where he used to play.
Mm-hmm.
But like we've heard, like, I was going completely off topic here, but we've heard about times say he wasn't fully prepared for like the start of a game, or he's had like defensive miscues, or the thumbs down. He does that in St. Louis. Have fun.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I didn't even include the Cubs aspect of this.
Absolutely.
And that even takes it to another level.
So I also have a guy that the Cardinals that's maybe already in their organization that they could use that left-handed bat, Nolan Gorman. He is a second.
Third, though.
He's a second baseman. They moved him over. I guess he's a second. You're right. He came up as third baseman
on this team.
Yes, they moved him over in the minors. They've been getting him some reps at second base. He has so much power. That could be the lefty piece if they called him up and kind of gave him the keys. I don't know if I see that happening. But yeah, it's just, you mentioned it when we talked about it before. They usually don't spend money in free agency. So I don't know why I'm expecting it to just happen now. It just kind of feels like if it's going to ever happen, now is the time it needs to, especially just with all these contracts that we've just kind of been waiting for them to get rid of are finally going to be off the table.
Yeah, I mean, I know some specific Cardinals fans that call in regularly on MLB Network Radio, and it's been happening since I got the job. I feel like I'm playing the call on repeat half the time. It's basically you guys yelling at the fact that Matt Carpenter is still on this team and other players are still on this team, and it's obviously affected the way this team can make moves in the offseason, but I think it's pretty clear after this conversation, there is absolutely no excuses in regards to letting that hold Mozeliak back. But my one thing is, during the trade deadline, how he only went after some veterans, kind of like, I'm not going to blow the system up to potentially not make the playoffs. I do think it worked out better than I thought it was, but can we please make sure he gets some starting pitchers, or is aggressive in the starting pitching market that's better than John Lester and J.A. Happ?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see names out there like, Robbie Ray. I don't know if you're going to be able to throw enough money.
Get a ton of money.
Yeah, Kevin Gausman's another name that's going to be out there. He's also going to get a ton of money coming off a huge year. Max Scherzer's a name that's out there that Cardinal fans have been like screaming for years. A guy that I wanted us to trade for at the deadline, but it's funny you bring up the names. Like, made the joke. Anytime you can bring in 2 starting pitchers with a combined age of like 72, you're doing something right at the deadline with J.A. Happ and John Lester, who I will give credit to. They had I think Happ had like a 3-something ERA in St. Louis, and Lester had a 4-something ERA. So it's like they weren't great, but they provided stability and they actually weren't hurt. They could actually go out there and make the starts, which was nice. Yeah. But there is going to be this added pressure, and I think it's more so maybe not to make a big move, Alec, but I think maybe it's just to get over the playoff hump and get back to a winning, good Cardinals team the whole year, a sustainable, not have to do it all in the second half Cardinal team that we're really like looking for and itching for as St. Louis fans.
So my last question here, or not my last question, but I want to talk about here with the pitching.
Mm-hmm.
Cardinals fans are not happy with the way that wild card game ended.
No.
Again, I don't know. Obviously, if your team isn't winning, you're not going to be too happy with the result. But, going into the second half of the season, most of the season, a huge question mark surrounded Alex Reyes. Reyes, of course, was a pitcher that went in against the Los Angeles Dodgers and led to them losing late in that baseball game. But, obviously, bullpen isn't exactly a huge concern. You guys have a very deep bullpen. But going into the offseason, how much do you think after what happened at the end of last season is going to lead to Mozeliak having to get some new arms here in the bullpen?
Oh, I think it absolutely does. I mean, we saw the thing. It was just so weird. The decline of Alex Reyes. Obviously, I think it was 24 straight saves, sets a record. And then it's just in the second half, it just all just fell apart. And it's funny, one of my buddies, we were texting during that game, and as soon as Reyes got put in, it's like all caps in our group message, like, never put in Reyes with runners in scoring position or with runners on base. He's terrible with runners on base. And just kind of there, it felt right. And some people are saying that maybe that move by Shildt had something to do with Mozeliak wanting him gone. So, I mean, if you look at the bullpen, a guy who was absolutely incredible for us last year was Giovanni Gallegos.
Boom.
A guy that I usually don't give enough credit to was Genesis Cabrera, who actually had a really good end to the year, had a great second half. Cody Whitley, Jake Woodford are guys that you might see there. I mean, they also might try to move him up into the starting rotation as well. But yeah, I think Alex Reyes hopefully picks it up. I mean, hopefully you get Jordan Hicks back from his injury. So, but yeah, I think they're gonna have to go get at least one veteran arm that they can rely on in the off season, whether it be See, that's why it's like I want them to go make this big splash, but it might almost be better for them to go, get a solid starter, get a solid guy in the pen, and go after a couple, maybe not huge stars, but like just solid bats. You know what I mean? But there's just so much to consider here. But at the end of the day, you still got Arenado, you still got Goldschmidt. Harrison Bader just came off one of his best years as a pro. Tyler O'Neill looks fantastic. He needs to cut the strikeouts down. But to answer your question about the bullpen, I think, yes, there needs to be some help there, because by the end of the year, it really was like only 3 or 4 guys that they were really ever bringing out of the bullpen. I think you need a few more than that to rely on over the 162, man. It's such a long, grueling season. You're bound to have some type of tweak or injury at some point, right?
So obviously your competition here in the National League Central is the Milwaukee Brewers. I understand it's going to be a while potentially till some moves are made with the potential of a lockout. As someone who watches and covers baseball like you on a daily basis, I don't know how quickly the players and the owners are going to come to an agreement. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. You are the St. Louis Cardinals. You are in position to potentially win your division. I understand moves need to be made. The flexibility financially for the Cardinals is way greater than the Brewers. As of today, how large is the gap between the two of you?
Oh, I don't think it's very slim. I think
Flaherty coming back makes it even slimmer.
Yeah, I mean, if we get Flaherty back, if we get Dakota Hudson back, if Miles Michaelis can return to form, I mean, if again, it's a big if, us banking on Wainwright doing this again, having this insane year at 41. But I mean, we've seen crazier things. And then also that added, Molina's last year. I think that's going to get a lot of guys up. I know I'm going to have to make my way to a lot of Cardinal games next year. That's just going to be surreal to not have him in a Cardinal uniform anymore. Yeah, I think it's very slim. I think it's very. I think we're right there. I think we're the clear 1-2. I think that Milwaukee's got the edge on us in pitching because they do have a very strong staff. But I mean, I'll take the Cardinals hitters over the Milwaukee hitters.
Oh, I'd take a lot of teams over Milwaukee's. So someone needs to add impact. And I trust that the team that will do that this offseason is you guys. Of course, don't sleep on the Brewers, man. They went the Rowdy Tellez.
They did. They got Dan Vogelback, too. Just two absolute tanks. I do love those moves.
I mean, inconsistent because they strike out a ton. Willie Adames. They have some free agents.
They got Colton Wong. They took Colton Wong from us,
They
too.
did. Jackie Bradley Jr. from them. Everything's opposite. I screwed this up.
Oh, I know. Me too. I literally just did it. I was recording a show with Tom Scavetta and Brian McCardle or from the Stands College Football Show before this, and I was wearing a Bears hat, and there was a patch on this side. I don't know. I touched the wrong side every time, dude. Every time. Throws me off.
It gets me. So, yeah, man, it should be an interesting offseason. Hopefully the players and the owners can come to some agreement so you and I can talk sooner on some moves that are made between the St. Louis Cardinals and some other teams across Major League Baseball, but that is a whole nother story for a whole nother day. This offseason is going to get extremely interesting outside of some moves that contending teams like ours here are potentially going to make this offseason. Andy, before I let you go, man, how can our listeners here keep in touch with you on social media and listen to your podcast?
Absolutely. One last quick point. If that CBA does go through, potential DH in the National League, that changes a lot of things about what the Cardinals would do in the offseason as well. As far as where you can find me, so I'm actually a pretty busy man these days. Obviously, I am the host of the Brew Party Podcast, so I actually just released an episode with Alec and I's friend AJ Eder Williams from the Three Man Weave Podcast.
Bengals.
We were talking Cincinnati Bengals and their huge win over the Baltimore Ravens and just kind of, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, all of that good stuff. Check that out. And then on Friday, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. noon, I'm going live with my friend Ryan Maloney for Maloney's Moneyline, our weekly gambling segment. We are going to give out 16 total picks for NFL and college football, as well as a special parlay for this weekend as well. I went 6-2 last week against the spread in my picks, so I'm feeling it, looking to keep that going.
Please tell me you picked Pats over Jets. That was the worst line I've ever seen in my life.
I had it. I didn't give it out, but I had it. Yeah, that was just an absolute just clown show. They clowned the Jets. And then, like I said, I'm also a part of a weekly college football show called From the Stands College Football Show, where you can find that on YouTube, youtube.com/From the Stands, and then you can find the Brew Party wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, youtube.com/The Brew Party. We're on Twitter and Instagram at The Brew Party. We're on Facebook at The Brew Party Podcast. And then finally, I just launched a new podcast with some friends. It is a conspiracy theory podcast, not sports related at all. Super fun. First episode launches on October 29th. It is called Edging the Truth. You can find us on all social medias at Edging the Truth, wherever you get your podcast, and YouTube, youtube.com/Edging the Truth. So, Alec, as always, thank you so much for having me. Go Cardinals. I hope Oli Marmol works out, but we'll see. We got to go make some moves, and hopefully we're back in the postseason, next year. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, it should be interesting. The NL Central, again, not the most competitive division. Of course, at the top, we mentioned the Brewers already. Just don't lose to the Pirates or the Reds or the Bears or the Cubs this year, and you guys should be fine. You guys should be good.
I hope not. I mean, the Cubs are in full rebuild mode. The Pirates just never spend any money and are perpetually bad. And then Cincinnati, I guess you don't really know what's going to happen with them. Is Castellanos a free agent?
He is expected to opt out of his player option.
Okay. Well, see, that's a piece there. So we'll see how that goes, man. But thank you so much for having me as always.
No problem, man. Thank you very much for joining me here on the Alec Walt Show. What do you guys who are listening to the show think of the St. Louis Cardinals hiring Oli Marmol? What do you think they should do here in free agency once free agency actually happens? Feel free to comment that below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Down the Block Sports for more of my exclusive content. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you very soon.